Sweet the whispers in your ear whenever Ember wanders near.
Asperger's is basically part of the autism canon. I actually think that they may still call it Asperger's, but Asperger's is part of the spectrum of autism. So like everybody that was diagnosed with Asperger's, you're basically like lumped into the canon of the spectrum of autism. Happened like 10 years ago, I think, that they basically they basically like merged Asperger's into the autism spectrum. Yeah, it was like they rolled it. They basically said Asperger's is part of the autism spectrum, and they're also trying. They don't call it that anymore. It's not just high functioning autism. Exactly, correct. I think they're actually trying to. Why am I pronouncing it Asperger's? How am I supposed to pronounce it? Asperger's. I think I did also hear something about that they're trying to lump in ADHD into the autism spectrum. I'm not sure I agree with that. Asperger? A long A? Yeah, Asperger's. An Asperger's author I know mentioned that him and everyone else with Asperger's they know hates being referred to as autistic and that they aren't actually part of the spectrum. Honestly, it's because of the way the syndrome is characterized, it fits into the spectrum. I don't know why they would hate it. It does fit in with the spectrum. They're basically just considered high-functioning autistic, which is not a bad thing. Now, maybe they're equating some kind of stigma with being a part of the autism spectrum, which I have words about that, but it's like it is characterized as autism. Is ADHD something you're born with, or can your environment cause it?
Landing complete. Hangar crew is ready. Welcome,
I'm
Commander.
not sure if there are environmental factors that can contribute to ADHD. I believe that there may be speculation, but I am not 100% sure if it's been verified that external or environmental factors can contribute. It does have a connection, not to don't agree. Yeah, like with ADHD, it's not the same thing. Like, point blank, ADHD is not really the same as autism. It's, it's attention deficit disorder, where it's basically you can't focus. Your brain is constantly, thinking about different things. Whereas with autism stems from basically constantly receiving external neurological stimulation, and that's the problem that people with autism have. So they're constantly taking in so much sensory information that it can be almost oppressive in some ways. Whereas ADHD, it's like the reverse. With ADHD, a person's brain is constantly going, like the thought processes are kind of going out. So it's like the ADHD. The overstimulus is proceeding externally, whereas with autism, you are receiving the overstimulation externally. So I'm not entirely sure that I would agree with it being the same thing either, because of that reason. It's granted, I have noticed something in the past several years that the medical and psychological community has been trying to basically lump more and more neurological disorders into the autism spectrum, which I don't like that either. They are basically trying to they're trying to consolidate. Excuse me. They're trying to consolidate so many freaking neurological disorders into the autism spectrum, and I don't like that. I don't like that because what it's doing, basically what people in the medical and oh crap, Desar, which station do I need to go to sign up? Am I going to Ryman? Where do I go to sign up for this? Ryman? Okay, thank you. Yeah, as I was saying. So, like, yeah, they're, like, it almost feels like, okay, tell me if this sounds familiar. It sounds like the medical / psychology community are trying to do with autism like what was done with LGBT. That's what it feels like is being done with autism. Is they're trying to do with autism what they did with LGBT, and they're basically saying, "Oh, everybody come in. You're all welcome here." And they're basically going to basically lump so many different neurological conditions in with autism that people with autism, and that's the problem. It's turning into another alphabet soup. And no, sucking no. It needs to that cannot fucking happen. It absolutely, look at what happened with the LGBT community. Cannot do that with autism. This is not like, oh, this is my sexual preferences, or this is my sexual identity, or I'm fucking nuts because I'm two-spirit, or quishing, or whatever. No, you can't fucking do that with autism. Autism is a legit medical disorder. You cannot fucking do that. And I will fucking call it out when people try. I will absolutely call that bullshit out when I see it. Like, flat out. ADHD, I'm sorry. It's like, ADHD is its own thing. It is not autistic. Okay? ADHD is not autistic. It is its own thing. Asperger's syndrome, I agree with basically, like, ascribing it to autism because Asperger's syndrome shares a lot of qualities in how it is characterized with the autism spectrum. It's basically on the high functioning part of the autism spectrum. That's why I don't have any issues with Asperger's being basically categorized as autism or high functioning autism. But all the rest of the shit, OCD, ADHD, fuck no. That's not autism. That's its own thing. That's 100% its own thing. To case in point, what happens if you're diagnosed with ADHD? What happens if you get diagnosed with ADHD? What occurs? What's the first thing that happens when you're diagnosed with ADHD? Anybody? Yeah, you get hit up with Ritalin. Does that work for autism? If you are autistic and you take Ritalin and go, oh yay, I'm treatable? No, don't fucking work. It don't fucking work. Yeah, like my family member when they were younger, when when we consulted with a pediatrician for treatment, this fucking hack, this foreigner hack, because she was like German or something. This foreigner hack prescribed my family member Ritalin. And we had them on Ritalin for maybe like a week or two and said, fuck this shit, we're not giving it to him anymore. It wasn't doing anything and it was only making him worse. We said, nope, we're taking him off it. So it's like, yeah, it's like, it is completely different. Some autism medicine has had a kid cause audio hallucination. Oh yeah. Let's wait up. Okay. Let me turn in here. I guess I just sell it. ADHD are more likely to more likely to get addicted? Oh yeah, because ADHD basically is an addiction level. It's basically an addiction level disorder. So yeah, it's just I need to, we absolutely need to start gatekeeping. We 100% need, like, ADHD individuals, you need to start gatekeeping. OCD individuals, you need to start gatekeeping. Autism people, in general, we need to start gatekeeping everything now. Yes, I did sign up for it. I did. We legit need to start gatekeeping literally everything now. We really do. Because it's, quite frankly, it's getting out of fucking control. And like, the SJRs are basically trying to take over everything and just lump everyone in with everything. And, eliminate, in the bullshit quest for, we want to give you an idea, we want to highlight your identity as an individual, and by lumping everything in together, you're actually destroying the individual identity. It's just, the people claiming it without any diagnoses, that's an entirely different thing. Okay, people claiming the autism without getting diagnosed, that is an entirely different thing altogether. That's not even what I'm talking about. Like, I already gatekeep the fuck out of autism with those pieces of shit. Anybody that tries to basically claim autism for social clout, I will eviscerate them. You guys know I will, because autism is probably one of the most important subjects of my entire life. It is something that I hold extremely dear to my heart, and you know why. So I will fucking destroy anyone that tries to pretend that they're autistic. I will absolutely annihilate them. Don't worry, Brett. Don't worry, Ever. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, in a way, you're not wrong, because we do need to gatekeep autism from the fakers. But it's not so much we're gatekeeping him from the fakers. We're calling them out as the bullshit artists and saying, you're bullshit, you're not autistic, we know you're not autistic, and we're going to call you out and basically expose you for the fraud that you are, and basically call you out and humiliate you and make your life a living hell, because you're trying to basically, you're basically trying to steal a medical condition for yourself for fucking clout. Basically. Is OCD autism? That's an excellent question. I'm going to say no. It's a very difficult call. It is difficult because autism does share a few tertiary traits with OCD, but OCD, like, autism only shares traits with OCD because it's a means for an autistic individual who is receiving such external stimulus, like overstimulated externally. Yeah, and that's where I'm getting into. So, people might characterize OCD, and that's true. You can also develop OCD through like a trauma. You're absolutely correct about that. The reason why people might mischaracterize autists as having OCD is because people with autism, they like routines and they do things in patterns, but it's not because they have, like, it's not like someone with OCD where they basically feel a sense of impending doom if they do not facilitate the repetitive behaviors. So people with OCD, they have to keep doing these repetitive behaviors over and over again, because if they don't, they feel like literally they think the world will come to a fucking end. Like, literally, they feel the world will come to an end if they do not exhibit their OCD behaviors. With people with autism, where they exhibit kind of traits in that respect, they don't do it because the people with autism don't do that because they feel a sense of impending doom. The people with autism do it because they are basically so hyperstimulated by their environment. They receive so much stimulation overload from exterior sources that they basically do these repetitive behaviors to basically focus their minds and basically give them a sense of control. So like it's a means for that. It's a means for them to exert control over themselves. It's basically stimming. It's what's known as stimming. So it's why you hear about autists that, you've heard about people with autism flapping their hands. Like we saw that in the autism test that I took with Celestia, where it was mentioning like flapping of the hands or spinning around in the chair. That is stimming. That is basically a behavior, and it may seem repetitive. But it's basically done because the person with autism they are getting overstimulated. And they basically do this stimming behavior to essentially reassert control over their lives and focus their mind, because they're taking in information so much all simultaneously. They stim so they can focus their mind on that stimming task and quiet their minds. So it's not that they think that their world is going to come to an end if they don't do it. They're literally just doing it to calm themselves, because their mind is working overtime, because they're basically experiencing everything around them simultaneously. That's basically why they do that, and it's not the same thing as OCD. Not to mention, as someone mentioned, OCD can be developed through mental trauma versus being born with it. Like OCD, you kind of develop, whereas autism, you're born with. OCD is very often like a PTSD style coping mechanism to deal with trauma. Yes, and that's why I equated PTSD with ADHD, because people with PTSD will often develop ADHD behaviors to compensate or to cope with their PTSD, or because of their PTSD. Yeah, there is a correlation between the two. Would I consider your extreme repulsion of most foods, like I can't even stand to be near them, from a form of autism? Possibly. It's like, bearing in mind, I am not a medical professional, okay? Like, I have a familiarity with autism because I've seen, since my family member was born, from the moment that they were basically able to walk, they exhibited autistic behaviors, and I, as one with the rest of my family, really dove into understanding autism so we could understand that. But I am not a medical professional. Bear that, keep that in mind. So, when I talk about this, don't view it as someone with a medical background giving you professional advice. When it comes to, the certain foods, when you can't stand certain foods, I think it would kind of, in my eyes, it would determine why. It would determine, like, why you have such revulsion to those foods. Is it because you've tried them before and you were disgusted by them, and now even looking at them, the memory of that revulsion returns to you, or what? It's like, on its face, saying I can't even look at certain foods, I'm disgusted by them, does that make me autistic? On its face, I'd say no, but I don't know if there's anything behind it that might be causing this, this behavior, or causing this reaction that may or may not have anything to do with autism. Yeah, texture and taste issues. Texture and taste issues may or may not be autistic. Because you'll notice how there's a lot of talk these days about, when it comes to food, mouthfeel. That's becoming a very popular thing in like the foodie circles, saying like, oh, this particular dish has a good mouthfeel. It's like, taste and textures is not necessarily autistic. Now, Am I 100% saying like, oh no, that's not autistic? No, I'm not. Of course I'm not. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not trying to diagnose you. But again, on its face, a person that has like a certain foible when it comes to taste and textures, on its face, that alone is not an indicator of autism. It's not. It simply isn't. If it's combined with other factors, maybe I'd have a different opinion. But on its own, just having a taste and texture sensitivity, so to speak, that's not necessarily autism. You know, and herein lies, like, this is like, these questions you guys are asking, not bad questions, okay? Bearing in mind, I'm not criticizing you for asking the questions like this. Bear in mind, but people look at, you know, those kind of things. They're like, oh, I have a taste sensitivity, or I don't like the texture of certain foods. And they're basically and they basically have a tertiary knowledge or a surface level knowledge of what it means to be autistic. And when and in that surface level knowledge, it's like, oh, people with autism, like, are sensitive to textures. Well, I don't like a certain I don't like a texture of certain foods, or I can you know, feel the texture of foods, I think, very keenly. So surely that must mean I'm autistic. And therein lies the problem that we're seeing, where we're getting so many of these fucking LARPers that like to claim they're autistic when they're not. Because they understand, they know about surface level. The fuck? Who's shooting me? Why am I being shot? Okay, that was weird. Hey, strays, I'm getting shot. You want to go kill the fucker? I see a couple of you hanging out here. Anyway, as I was saying. So yeah, it's like this is what I'm talking about, where we're seeing so many LARPers. That, you know, we're seeing so many of these LARPers that they basically have a surface level understanding of autism. Basically, they see, like, these LARPers see the quirkiness of autism, and they go, oh yeah, that's me, for real. And so they basically self-identify as autism because they see autism as quirky, and autism is the fun neurological disorder that most people, that a goodly number of people with autism that are high functioning can, oh, for fuck's sake, under attack, give me a fucking break.
Landing gear retracted. Cargo scoop retracted.
It's that. Anymore. Good. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, people basically view autism as sort of like the fun neurological disorder, and if you're quirky, you can be classified as autistic. And because there is so much support for people with autism, there are a lot of high-profile individuals that basically champion autism these days, like Eli. They go, I'll say I'm autistic, it will get me clout points online, when they don't actually understand that people with autism can have unbearably challenging lives, and it is not a quote-unquote fun neurological disorder. That there are indeed many people with autism that for the entirety of their lives may not be able to function on their own for, the remainder of their lives. And they just don't freaking get this. And it's it's insulting as fuck that they're like, oh, I have the fun disease. It'll give me clout points, when they don't actually see what someone with severe autism actually has to live through. I see it as a unique challenge ability. Just depends on what happens. I prefer to see the good, and it's fine. It's fine to prefer to see the good, but don't only see the good and ignore the bad. It's fine to recognize the good, but you also have to acknowledge the bad. Yes, Eli's son is autistic. I know. That's why I say Eli is such a proponent of autism. It's why he is a big name in the autism space, because his son is autistic, and so he is a big champion with a big voice for the world, in the world of autism, and I love him for it. It's why I bought two of the autism shirts, because every time every time you buy one of those, money goes to autism charity. Absolutely. Oh. Oh, okay. No problem, River. Don't worry about it. Oh, so yeah. Thank you for Ace. Well, it's yeah. Environment. I hear people say autists are immune to the woke. What do y'all think of that? Again, it depends. It depends on if you're talking about high-functioning autists or you're talking about people with autism that are moderate to severe. The person in my family who is moderate to severe autistic, yeah, they're absolutely immune to woke. Why? Because they do not bother. Because basically, in a simple matter, they are unconcerned with the bullshit sociological garbage happening in the world today. They don't care. They flat out don't care. So yeah, for those that are moderately to severely autistic, they don't understand nor do they care about the woke or the right or any of it. They don't give a fuck about any of it. They're just kind of doing their own thing. And they don't care about ideologies. They don't care about politics. They give less than a fuck about any of it.
Landing gear deployed.
And honestly, they're probably happier than all of us combined. The moderate to severe autistics that don't understand how the world is going right now are probably happier than you or I will ever be. They will. And in a way, it's a little bit envy-inducing that they are just happily in their own little worlds and they don't have to worry about all the bullshit that we view on a daily basis. Yeah. Now the high-functioning autistics, they are not immune. The high-functioning autistic individuals, they alas are not immune to it. Because that's the whole concept of high functioning, is they are keenly aware of everything that's going on all around them. So they are not immune. Case in point, myself. While I'm not diagnosed, obviously I've said I'm not diagnosed, I'm like almost 100% certain I'm at least high functioning autistic. And you can see how much it bothers me. There's plenty of you in chat right now that are high-functioning autistic, and the DEI, woke, far-right, all the extremist shit bothers you just as it bothers me. So it's basically the non-high-functioning autistic people that, yes, they basically have like a natural immunity. They do, and bless them for it. They are untroubled by the woke. They're untroubled by the DEI. They're untroubled by the actual far right, the actual racist shit that's happening. They are untroubled by any of that. God bless them for it. So the only sane people are high-functioning autistics. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say there's a very healthy amount of them that are. I will say that a lot. I will say that a lot that high functioning autistics are probably like some of the most sane people. Because really, when you think about it, people with high functioning autism look at facts. They are very fact oriented. They don't go off of feelings anywhere near as much as, say, the SJRs do. They look at facts and reality. Why do you think half the time when you guys make jokes and I just go, huh? And it goes right the fuck over my head? Because when you guys make jokes, I'm looking at it from the lens of like logic and reality a lot of the times. And I don't get that a joke's being made. Like that's kind of like how a lot of people that are high functioning autistic work, is they look at something and they look at if somebody talks about something on an emotional scale, where they're basically reference something on an emotional level. A person with autism might look at that and go, that doesn't work. That doesn't make sense. That's not the reality of it. That's not factual. That doesn't make logical sense. And so it's like so people, people that are autistic, particularly the high functioning people with autism, they will get facts and reality before they'll look at, an emotional quote and quote behind it. Like, as much as I hated the way this show went, Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory is the perfect example of a high functioning autistic. He is like Sheldon. I can't remember if it was canonized or not, but I believe that there was that Sheldon was. I think originally they were going to make Sheldon, diagnosed with Asperger's, and I think they ended up deciding not to do that for some reason. But he's the perfect example. He looks at everything with, first and foremost, he looks at things with a logical, factual, realistic lens. And then when he realizes, oh, we're not looking at this factually, you're needing to look at this with the fifis, or you look, or someone's being sarcastic. He was, oh, you're doing it oh, you're being sarcastic. Like that. Like, granted, Sheldon is something of a caricature of someone with high functioning autism, but like that's kind of how a lot of people that are high functioning view the world. They view it through a lens of logic and reason and fact and reality. They just don't act like Sheldon does, because again, he is a caricature. Another good character in modern entertainment is the younger brother from Jurassic World. How many of you guys remember Jurassic World? There was the two brothers, and one of them, and there was the older brother, and then there was the younger brother. You guys remember? I've talked about this before. The younger brother in Jurassic World, he was obsessed with teeth. How many teeth a dinosaur has? Like that was basically his thing. Yeah, he was a dino nerd, and he fixated on how many teeth each dinosaur had. Like during the final battle, he was counting the teeth of the Indominus versus like the raptor. And he's like, we need more teeth, because he counted the teeth. Like, okay, the Indominus has this many teeth, and the raptor has this many teeth. We need more teeth to beat the raptor. And he was focused on the teeth. He was originally written to be autistic. That character was actually originally written to be autistic, and then about halfway through writing the script, the writers basically just bailed on the fucking idea, which I hate. They, like, halfway through writing the script, they bailed on the idea, but they kept those aspects of the character in the script still. So he was clearly autistic, but the writers basically were too fucking lazy to go all in with the autism for his character for the remainder of the movie. Yeah, but his characterization when they did show his tism, worked in more of a quote unquote realistic depiction of how someone with autism functions. Like, they're not like a robot, but their mind is always thinking facts and numbers and like, okay, like we're in this life or death situation, and this kid's brain was going 1,000 miles a minute, and the tisming was kicking in. He's like, okay, the Irex has X amount of teeth, the Velociraptor has X amount of teeth, the Irex has more teeth than the Velociraptor, so we need more teeth, and that's why he's like, we need more teeth. It was a more, but other than that, like he was like, he was like kind of like an excited normal kid otherwise, with these like little sprinkling moments where you could see the tism peeking through. That was, they didn't go quite right with it, but that was kind of a better representation of someone with autism, especially someone of that age having autism. In my opinion, it was the most realistic version is The Accountant. I don't know about that. I was thinking about The Accountant too. There were certain aspects in there, like especially where he was, he was stimming. He would, in The Accountant, he did stimming behavior. The extremely loud music and then rubbing rubbing the roller onto his leg, like firmly rubbing the roller onto his leg, trying to basically focus his mind. Like there's yes and no. It was a good representation about with autism. Like I see the yes, and then I'm also seeing like I don't know, but there were some aspects that I kind of were okay. Rain Man was really good. Dustin Hoffman, I think, did do a really good job with Rain Man depicting someone with severe autism. I do. He that like I was trying to avoid it because it's like I wanted to avoid the blatantly obvious example of it because it is blatantly obvious. But yeah, Dustin Hoffman probably exemplified the traits of an autistic person, especially someone with severe autism, probably better than anyone in film history. Well, autism is so being a savant is part of being autistic. That is kind of what it kind of goes hand in hand because a lot of people with autism, because people with autism hyper focus on things. Trust me on this one, I know. People with autism absolutely hyper focus, and that basically like tails into being a savant. Now, sometimes they can actually have savant syndrome. They can actually be a savant. But a lot of people with autism, they're extreme focus. Think about the stereotypical thing about traits. How people with autism know everything there is to know about trains. Well, you could say that they are savant when it comes to trains because they know how absolutely everything about a train works down to the finest detail. And like, would you classify that as being savant? Maybe, maybe not. Rayman was an autistic savant, but now autistics are savant. Correct. That exactly. That's kind of where I was going with it. But but more than like his savant behavior. Rayman was more of a savant than autistic. Disagree. Hard fucking disagree. Absolutely hard disagree that Rayman was more of a savant than autistic. No. First, shit, why am I getting emotional about this? Shit, I'm getting emotional about this. Okay. Crap, I don't know why I'm suddenly getting emotional. Okay. Raymond was far more autistic than savant. You saw it in his behaviors, where he was constantly asking questions, like watching Jed Wapner, how his bed had to be in a certain spot in a room to be able to see the sun come up. And especially he saw it when he got upset. When he got upset and started hitting himself in the head and like screaming and hitting himself because things weren't working out correctly for him. Like things were not going the way that he thought that they should go. That is a nightmare for any parent who has a child with severe autism. The self-harm is something that every parent of a severely autistic child knows is just a heartbreaking nightmare. That if their routine is off, that they will overreact to their routine being off and start hitting themselves because again, it's as crazy as it sounds. It's kind of a form of stimming when they do that. it's basically kind of a form of stimming because they're basically losing control of their environment. And it's incredibly distressing for them. Incredibly distressing. And so then hitting themselves is essentially kind of a form of stimming. They're trying to regain the control that they've lost of their environment, and it's the only way they know how to do it, and they don't understand that it's harming themselves. Yeah, the alarm, the smoke alarm, see, exactly. That was stimming. That was Raymond stimming to try and regain control, because with that smoke alarm, it gotta help me. Smoke alarm. That smoke alarm scene hits me so fucking hard because the person in my family lost an entire year of school, and they were young, because the fire alarm at the school was so terrifying to them. So terrifying to them that they would not go back for the entire rest of the year. It was like one of the first fire alarm drills of the year. It was like in the fall. And it was so terrifying. They refused to go back, and they had to stay out of school for an entire year because the very idea of it sent them into a physical panic. And it was heartbreaking to think. It was absolutely heartbreaking to see. And we spent an entire year working with them. It took a year of non-stop working with them just to get them to the point that they could even set foot back in the school. We had to do so much work. They were so, this is how severe this was. They were so terrified of the fire alarm. Even passing by the school terrified them. Even just passing in front of the school, they would start going into a panic because they thought we were going to be taking them into the school where the bad sound was. And it took a full year of slowly, so painfully slowly, reintroducing them to even the idea of going back to school. We would spend days literally just driving back and forth in front of the school a couple times a day just to get them used to the fact that the school in itself wasn't bad. And then we would spend days literally just going and parking in the parking lot and sitting there to get them comfortable just being in the parking lot. And then we would spend days having them just stand in the vestibule just to get them used to it. And then weeks just going into the school. Like a fucking year. It took a year. And then to this day, they're still not over it. To this day, they're
When
still
I was in
not
high school,
over
Kim
it.
Peek visited my high school, and he was amazing to experience Ember.
To this very day, they are still terrified of the fire alarm at school. And this was years ago, fucking years ago, that this happened. And they're still terrified of it to this day. It's what? It's so yes, yes. Rain Man hits me in the heart with how he depicted autism. He worked so hard and worked with so many people with severe autism to honor and accurately depict what they go through. I cannot think of a single other actor that has ever gone to that length to give an actual accurate depiction of what someone with severe autism goes through and how they behave. It's not demons. This is not image. It's reality. And it breaks my heart, but I love them so much. I love them with all my heart, but my heart breaks for what they have to go through on a daily basis. Yeah, they do. They do. They have a very good memory, period, and that memory can sometimes be a curse. Unfortunately, that mind like a steel trap could unfortunately be a curse sometimes. Oh, no. It's not grief. I'm not experiencing grief. I'm experiencing sympathy. I'm experiencing empathy. I'm not experiencing grief. They're still alive. I'm not grieving them, but I'm sympathetic to them. I'm sympathetic and I'm empathetic to what they go through when they were younger and on a daily basis.
Ember burns bright.